what equipment is needed in the truck. And this is an instance in which you'll see, well, the differences that you'll see between state to state or county to county. Some take an approach where they don't have a lot of hard and fast requirements for what needs to be on the truck. Those states typically are going to wait and see what the menu is. What menu is your client serving? Once they see what the menu is, then they're going to say, well, you need X, Y, and Z on your truck. These states don't want to require you to have a lot of unnecessary equipment on your truck. They know that space is very, very limited, and so they're going to wait to see what you're cooking before they tell you what exactly you need in your truck. Other states take a different approach, and they require kind of a minimum of certain items or certain equipment pieces, certain spaces, before you can become certified as a food truck. And these states, they'll also review your menu to see what additional equipment you need, but they do have that baseline of what they want to see no matter what. I think these states are kind of going on the viewpoint that even if your menu on day one says a certain thing, you might want to bring in a new menu item or new ingredient or new process in the future. And if they have established these minimum baselines, they're kind of protecting themselves and the consumers for if you do expand your menu, you know, as your menu expands or changes, the truck may no longer have the equipment that it needs to serve that menu. And so that's kind of the difference between, or the two viewpoints between the differences you'll see in some regulations for what is required on your truck. You know, as we discussed earlier, some require your truck to be fully enclosed. Some, if they classify push carts and food trucks together, don't require enclosures. Some will require screens or fans in order to keep out any pests, such as flies or bugs, to keep you know, those kind of contaminants out of your truck. All are going to require that you have a potable water source. So you're going to have water that's safe for drinking or safe for consumption, and this is obviously used in food prep and hand washing. You're going to need a hand washing sink. Other jurisdictions will require, all jurisdictions require that you have a sanitation sink and drain boards, but some, you know, many require you to have a three-system sink or three-compartment sink, which is common in every restaurant. You'll see them. It's wash, rinse, sanitize. But they do understand that space is limited on a truck, and so depending on your menu, they might allow you to have just a one-compartment sink instead of having that three-compartment sink. The truck is going to have some ability to control temperatures of the food that's stored, prepared, and served to customers. Some kind of mechanical ventilation and fire suppression system, hood or ansel, some way to keep, if a fire does start out, some way to stop that and prevent it from spreading. An approved waste disposal system. Some jurisdictions have very specific requirements as to the placement of the outlets for disposing of waste, the size of those outlets, where they can be located on the truck. Some are very specific, but that is a very important item that the health department requires, but it's a big number or a big item on the list that municipalities care about. They want to make sure that your food truck has adequate waste storage and waste disposal functions so that you're not dumping grease, you know, on the sidewalk or something like that. And so this is a health department requirement, but municipalities will often check as well, just to make sure that you're not disposing improperly of your waste on site when you're parked somewhere before you leave. The health department is going to require that you have an approved power source of some kind. Most food trucks have a generator, but oftentimes you can, you know, run a power line into, maybe you're parked outside of a brewery. You can run a power line into the brewery and power the truck that way. And then finally, some jurisdictions are going to require a certain amount of countertop or prep space, whereas other jurisdictions might not require a certain amount of countertop space if you don't have any menu items that would necessitate it. All right. Yes, and how jurisdictions deal with the fact that a food truck can't possibly be well, this is not true. There are some food trucks out there, very large, very deluxe food trucks that are fully self-contained. They have restrooms, they have every piece of equipment that they'll need for food prep and food cooking and food storage, but those trucks are very few and far between. One of the reasons people gravitate towards food trucks is that the startup costs are much lower than a traditional brick and mortar restaurant, and if you've got one of these giant deluxe food trucks, you're eating into those savings very quickly, and in fact it might become more expensive to the extent that it's hard to get everything into one truck, and so you do see a lot of prices rising the more you try to fit into this truck. So how trucks operate is that health departments make the truck associate with a commissary, and the commissary can be another restaurant. It can be a commercial kitchen that's available for rent by the hour, and this commissary is your food truck's home base. So this is where you will store your dry ingredients, where you'll have identified dedicated freezer space and refrigerator space. This is where your client will keep all of their equipment when it's not being used on the truck, where they'll clean everything that wasn't already cleaned on the truck. So this is kind of the brick and mortar counterpart to your mobile food facility. So many jurisdictions require that if it is, well, no matter if it's a commercial kitchen for rent or if it's another food establishment, require that you have dedicated storage, both in dry storage and in temperature control storage. And this is because if the inspector comes in, they want to know if they see a violation, who that violation is attributed to. And so if there weren't this dedicated marked storage, it would be easy for the restaurant or the food truck to pass it off on the other occupant of the space if there is some kind of violation in the space. So commissary requirements is also obviously going to need to have temperature controllability, warewashing facilities. This is where you need to have all of your cleaning and maintenance equipment, where you dispose of your waste, your grease, your liquid waste. Sometimes jurisdictions require you to have special or dedicated hookups for the food truck. Other jurisdictions for some of these commercial kitchens, they don't necessarily require dedicated hookups, but if they'll require additional hookups if the food kitchen or if the commercial kitchen services more than like 10 food trucks, then they'll need to have more waste disposal capacity. Storage space again, water that's fit for consumption, and then finally toilet facilities.